Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're doing something absolutely fascinating. We are going to reverse engineer your personality and trace its roots all the way back to the very first 3 years of your life. We are going to unpack the incredible blueprint of exactly how your mind was originally designed and built.
So, let's kick things off with a massive question. How did you become the person you are today? I mean, every single one of us starts out in this world as a completely blank slate, right? A total zero. So I really want you to take a second and think about how your unique personality, your specific quirks, and your original story actually began. How did that blank slate turn into you?
To answer that, I've got a pretty shocking statistic for you. 95%. What does that number actually represent? Well, 95% of our daily behavior is not consciously decided by us in the present moment. Instead, it's running on complete autopilot, entirely controlled by our subconscious mind.
But here's the truly mind-blowing part. When was that massive autopilot system actually built? Believe it or not, this subconscious operating system was already programmed before you could even speak fluently. By age 3, the foundational operating system of your life was essentially fully installed and running. Crazy, right?
In this explainer, we're going to trace this whole human growth journey chronologically through 5 key steps: the sensory foundation, the first 6 months, the birth of the ego, establishing independence, and finally, the programming of love.
All right, let's dive right into step 1, the sensory foundation. Think of a newborn's brain like a raw data pipeline. It's simple but incredibly powerful. A baby absorbs the outside world entirely through their 5 senses as raw input data. The brain first processes this as sensory memory, and then, boom, permanently saves it to the hard drive as long-term memory. And this stored sensory data literally forms the core materials of their future personality and dictates how they'll make decisions for the rest of their life.
Moving right along to step 2, the first 6 months.
So at the exact moment of birth, the part of the brain that handles emotions, the amygdala, is incredibly simple. It basically just has a binary function. A newborn essentially only registers feeling either pleasant, meaning comfortable, or unpleasant, meaning uncomfortable. That is the entire starting emotional spectrum for a human being. But by the time they hit just 6 months old, this simple binary branches out with incredible speed into a highly complex array of emotions. The pleasant side evolves into joy, fun, and relief, while the unpleasant side fragments into disgust, sadness, anxiety, fear, and anger. And the really crucial point here is that this rapid expansion is shaped entirely by those early daily interactions with parents and caregivers.
Next up, step 3, birth of the ego. Right around that 1 to 1.5 year mark, the brain goes through a massive biological hardware upgrade. This is driven by the explosive multiplication of what are called glial cells. These are basically the cells that support and protect the neurons in your brain, and at age 1, they multiply at just a staggering rate. To put that into perspective, this biological upgrade literally doubles the hardware specs of the human brain, leaping from roughly 400 grams at birth to 800 grams in just a single year. Imagine if your laptop just automatically doubled its processing power in 12 months. It's this phenomenal physical growth that powerfully drives the child's psychological growth.
And this hardware upgrade perfectly aligns with a really fascinating psychological timeline. Look at that milestone right at 1.5 years old. This is the exact moment a child realizes they are a distinct, separate entity from other people. The ego emerges right alongside complex feelings like shame and empathy. This realization of self versus others lays the absolute foundation for basic human trust. Then, by age 3, highly advanced emotions like pride and guilt are fully formed.
Which brings us to step 4, establishing independence.
You know how toddlers suddenly want to do literally everything themselves, like washing their hands or eating? Well, that desire isn't just them being stubborn. It's actually a fundamental survival instinct kicking in. Unlike a lot of other animals that can walk and follow their parents within minutes of being born, humans take a uniquely long time to develop. It takes 3 full years to complete a biological process called myelination. This is the coding of the nerve cells, literally physically wiring the child's nervous system so they can successfully control their physical movements and execute basic survival functions on their own.
So the key takeaway here is that between mastering physical movement, learning the basic social rules, and figuring out how to express those newly formed complex emotions, the foundational human package is fully installed by the age of 3. The biological and psychological foundation is completely set in stone.
And finally, we reach step 5, the programming of love.
Now, the objective truth about human attachment is pretty fascinating. You see, the infant brain doesn't run on biology, and it definitely doesn't automatically detect bloodlines. Instead, it strictly programs its attachments based on daily input: kind words, affectionate actions, and feelings of safety. As the classic examples go, babies raised by wolves will love wolves, and those raised by monkeys will love monkeys. The brain honestly doesn't care about genetics, so choose your babysitters wisely. Anyone, whether that's a biological parent, an affectionate babysitter, or a grandparent, who consistently provides unconditional safety and trust forms the exact same deep, permanent bond in the child's mind.
Which brings us to the core message of the source material in this explainer. A person cannot love if they haven't experienced being loved. It's really that simple. You literally cannot love others without having that initial blueprint installed in your own subconscious first.
Because true unconditional love is actually programmed during a very brief window. It happens in those first 6 months when a baby is completely 100% helpless and dependent on their protector. The strong bonds and unconditional love received during this utterly vulnerable time get permanently hard-coded into their subconscious. This early code directly dictates their future capacity for empathy, human connection, and honestly their ability to show love as an adult.
As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a really profound thought to reflect on. Even if you intellectually know you should be kind, if your subconscious lacks that early blueprint of being loved, it can be incredibly difficult. The kindness, the connection, and the empathy we're able to show the world today are entirely thanks to those foundational memories of safety and love given to us long before we could even speak. It really makes you wonder about the roots of your own story, doesn't it?